Hello again, everyone. Mario writes to ask if it's possible to have a variable mix during setting of the throttle to elevator mix when doing uplines and downlines in F3A aerobatics. In other words, when you're trying to find the correct mix value, you pull into your upline, can you rotate one of the side sliders, for example, until you get the right amount of mix? Yes, we can do that. Although, obviously, you're going to have to do this a couple of times. You'll have to do one for your upline, land, check your value, do it again, set it for the downline, check your value, and then individually set the mixer curve for those two values. There is a second way, which I'll show you, and it's possible nobody's thought of this, and that's to use a Lua app, which will do the job beautifully for you, hands-free, while you just fly the model. So we'll look at the conventional way first, which is the throttle to elevator mix. In we go, free mix from throttle. Now, you don't want an asymmetric mix, you need a symmetric mix. An asymmetric mix means that it treats throttle at idle as being 0 instead of throttle at midpoint as being 0. And that means that you would be able to set an upline mix or a downline mix, but not both. So you want that switched off. To the elevator, advanced value, we'll say 100%, but you might say, well, that's going to be a bit sensitive, moving the slider on the side when you're trying to get what might be quite small percentages of the mix. So if you were to bring that down, say, to 50%, you'd get a much gentler mix as you move the slider. You could even bring it down, say, to 20%. After all, I suspect you're only going for very small percentage numbers in the mix anyway. So perhaps better to set that to, say, 50% or 20%. The switch is the slider that you want to use to vary the value. So we'll move that, and it needs to be proportional, like that. Not that proportional one, because that's effectively just a switch again. It's that one that you need. Say OK. Leave the curve as it is. And so with the side slider at the midpoint, there's no mix. You get full mix one way and full mix the other way with it. And if we have a look at the servo now, if I move the elevator, so it's number 3, I'll give it sort of near full throttle, and I'll start moving the side slider, and you see the mix comes in. So I can mix one way, and if that's compensating the wrong way, you can move the side slider the other way, and you get your compensation trim the other way. So as you can see, well, you can't see what my finger's doing with the side slider, P5, but it's pretty sensitive. So that's why I said maybe use 50% or even 20% in the mix. And then you can move the slider much further for each percent of mix that you get. So what you'd have to do is fly the model, find your upline mix, make a note of it, go back again, do your downline mix, land, and then I would leave the master value at 100%. Switch, I would take that out altogether if you want it constantly on, or allocate it to a 2-position switch if you want to be able to switch it on and off as required. Then I would go into your curve, change that to a 3-point, come down here. Now you can see from the little sort of target, the gun sight marker, that's moving with the throttle. So that tells you where the throttle stick is. So if you found that you need a minus 5% mix this way, and could be a minus 5%, could be a plus 2%, whatever, you can move those to where is required. That one could have been minus, could have been positive. The 0 point, obviously, and then the high power mix would be whatever you would need there. And that would be your thing done. Okay, let's say okay to that. I'm going to clear it out. Yes, and I'm going to suggest using Dave McQueenie's fantastic Lua app called AutoMix. Now this was developed principally for knife edge mixing, so rudder to elevator, rudder to aileron, but it will mix one value to any one or two other values. If you haven't seen it, go and look at my video about the automatic knife edge mixing, auto mixing. Let's have a look at it. What would it do for us? Well, the idea is that when you get to your upline or downline, you switch on the app, and then you just move the elevator up or down as required to get the straight line. The app reads where you've moved the elevator to, picks up the correct amount of compensation, and will apply it. You switch the app off, come out of your upline downline, turn around and go the opposite way. So you've now gone from, say, a high throttle upline to a low throttle downline. Again, switch the app on once you're established in the vertical, move your elevator, get your plane going straight, switch the app off and pull out. And the app has now read exactly what you needed to do with the mixing, because it read what you were doing with the elevator stick. It's very clever. So let's go and have a look at that. First of all, you need to get the app. The app is available through Jeti Studio. If you already have the AutoMix app, please go back to Jeti Studio, select it, uninstall it, and install it again. And the reason is that when getting ready to do this video, I discovered that there is a little bug in the app if you try and use the throttle as the main control. And so Dave has corrected that and put the corrected version up ready for Jeti Studio. So since Studio doesn't have an update button, you have to uninstall and then install again. If you haven't used any of Dave's apps before, please go and have a look at my video, and I will put a link in the last few seconds of this video to it about the AutoMix app, because it's not provided by Jeti in Jeti Studio. You have to put in the correct link to in Jeti Studio for it to go and find the app. So it will do that for you. So if you haven't got it already, please have a look at that video to find how to get it into Jeti Studio. Okay, we go to Applications, User Apps, press plus, find our way down to DFM AMix. Select that. Oh, and by the way, those of you with a Generation 1 14 or 16, I'm very sorry, you cannot use this app. Dave did his best, but it just uses a bit more resources than those transmitters have. But if you've got one of the Jeti transmitters with a color screen, you're fine, no problem. Let's say okay to that. We'll go in and adaptive mixer. Right, the main control says crow or rudder, because this is really the sort of thing it was based for. But it's quite happy. We'll move the throttle, select proportional. There we are. We don't need it in 0 to 100% mode, because we need it to go either side of center of the throttle. In other words, high throttle and low throttle. We don't need to reverse it. AutoMix elevator on-off control is a 2-position switch to switch the app on and off. There we go. When I say switch the app on and off, it's switch it on and off from sensing what your elevator stick is doing and adjusting the mix. When you switch it off, the mix is still there, but it stops the elevator from changing the mix. The elevator control, move it, select proportional, say OK, and come down and go into the app settings. I suggest you switch off the voice announcement of the unset trim points, if it gets in the way. And the auto crow rate, it says auto crow, it's sort of auto mix. This is a follow on from the first app that Dave did, which was auto crow mixing for crow break. You might want to take that down to 100 or even 50 to slow down the rate at which it increases the mix percent when you move the stick. Otherwise you might find it's a bit too sensitive at adding things. Okay, so perhaps go into there and take it all the way down to 50 or 100. See what you feel like. 300 will work, but ooh, you might find it just adds a bit too much trim very quickly. Say OK to that. And then you have to set up the mixer for it. So a function assignment, we create a function. I'll just call it A for auto for the moment to save time. And now it gets its control not from the throttle or the elevator, but from the app. So user app, adaptive mix value, elevator. Say OK to that. So now we've set up that, we have something we can use in the mixer. Because remember, mixes only do function to function. It won't accept anything else as an input. So fine tuning, free mix from that function we've created to the elevator, master value 100%. A switch on and off for the mix again, if you feel that you need that, that's fine. This would be a standard 2-position switch, straightforward. Do you want the mixer switched on? Do you want the mixer switched off? That's it. Leave the curve as it is. And OK. Now, it's useful to have a visual representation of what's going on with the app mixer. So to do that, and you don't have to, the app works beautifully without it, but this really helps you see what's going on. So displayed telemetry plus Lua, the elevator mix curve. Don't select a double box, it does it itself, and there you are. If I move the throttle from idle up to full throttle, you can see where it's going. It's a multi-point mixer, and what it will do is pick the point nearest to where the throttle is. See, the throttle is the tiny little blue box there. The point that the app has picked is the larger box, which, as you see, can jump as it finds the point that's nearest above or below where the throttle is. And that is the point that will be moved by the elevator. Okay, now when I switch the app on, you will get a voice warning telling you that the app is running. And the reason is you really do need to remember to switch the app off when you have completed the trimming that you're doing.
Auto mix. Auto mix. Auto mix.
And switch it off. And switching it on and off is vital, because if the app is running, then any movement of the elevator will start retrimming the elevator stick. It will start retrimming your throttle to elevator mix. So what you do is you're flying along, you want to do your upline. So you're up at some higher throttle value, you pull into your upline. See, I'm moving the elevator stick. It's doing nothing to the app. You've achieved your upline. You switch it on.
Auto mix.
And now,
auto mix.
By moving the elevator stick,
auto mix,
it will move the point that you're
auto
at
mix.
And all the subsequent points with it to
auto
wherever
mix.
you're holding the elevator stick.
Auto mix.
So it doesn't matter if you're pulling up or pushing
auto
down.
Mix.
It does it for you.
Auto mix.
You've done that. Switch the auto mix off before you push out or pull out. Otherwise, it'll just keep amending the points as you pull the stick. Okay? So let's just say that's it. You've done your upline at high throttle. Just reverse, come down. You're at some low throttle. Let's say go down to there.
Auto mix.
Switch on. Move. The elevator is required to keep you straight lining.
Auto mix.
Switch it off and pull out. And that's it. Obviously, if you're not practiced at doing this, it might take you 2 or 3 goes in each direction to get it just finely tuned in. But it's all being done in one flight, and there's no need for you to memorize what sort of numbers there were and which direction you did it. The app's got it done for you. So let's have a look at the effect of that on the servo. So I'm at low power now. There it is. Notice, because the way the curve was constructed, the mix will suddenly switch on at the relevant throttle setting. It won't come in gently as you move throttle away from 0, which if you did the normal mix, as we did in the first part of this video, as soon as you move the throttle away from 0, the mix value will start coming in. This one will just suddenly come in the shape of the curve we did. So I'll move the throttle up, and all of a sudden it's gone off. And it will stay off as I keep moving the throttle up until we get to the point where it comes in again. And it remains steady there all the rest of the way. Yeah? See all that throttle movement? The mix is remaining steady. It's not constantly increasing. It goes off, can move all the throttle all the way down here until we get to the downline throttle. It comes in, and it remains steady down there. Okay? And as I say, in the mixer, you can assign the switch to actually switch it on and off if you want. Now, one thing that Dave and I always recommend with the AutoCrow and the AutoMix app is it's wise to transfer its values to a standard mixer rather than keep the app running forever, because you've got a third-party app, and with the best will in the world, there might be some bug that just hadn't been encountered before, or the transmitter's Lua resources might throw a wobbly and stop all apps running. Who knows? It's just safer to transfer it. And so what you would do is look at your graph there, and then you'd go to mixing, create a throttle to elevator mix with, 9 points, and set the points to those values there. And that would be it done. Bear in mind that the values you see here are trim values, are they? So half that would be the travel value. The value here is the value on the point. So that point's at 0, that point's at 0, that point's at minus 50. And this here is telling you the actual value on the curve. So you see it's basically minus 50, but it'll start running up the curve there to here. So it's not that number, it's this number you want to set. And yeah, because these are trims, minus 50 is actually minus 25% servo travel. And when you go into the mixer and create the curve in the mixer, you're just plain throttle to elevator mixer, you would put in minus 25 because they're using function level, not trim level. And part of the reason this was done this way was so that you can't make a mess up and drive your servos right to the end. So it's a bit of a safety feature. So if that says minus 100, then it would be 50% travel. But I suspect you're going to be using much smaller values. Okay, so there's a possibility using the AutoMix Lua app would set up your mixers or give you at least the values to put into the Jeti built-in mixer very, very quickly.